Valve just open sourced another major project. Plus, it looks like Sony has capitulated that the PSVR 2 doesn't have enough games. Their solution actually surprised me. A popular game makes a big change for the better, and Nintendo completely ignores what their fans keep asking for. Speaking of Nintendo, I'll talk about the rumors for Metroid Prime 4 coming this year, and the reviews are out for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I played the demo, and I have some thoughts. Valve is making further inroads into the open source development. They recently took Steam Audio and made it completely open source. They did a lot of work making Half-Life Alyx in order to make the audio as realistic as possible. And now they're taking what they've learned and releasing it to everyone to use wherever they want to use it. Here's what they said. We are excited to announce that with the latest release of Steam Audio, the complete source code of Steam Audio SDK is now available as open source. With this release, our goal is to provide more control to developers, which will lead to better experiences for their users and hopefully valuable contributions back to the wider community of developers using Steam Audio. This comes after receiving a lot of valuable feedback and contributions from the community to the plugins that are already available as open source like Unity, Unreal, and Fmod Studio. And we want to bring those same benefits to the core SDK. This will allow developers to tailor their SDK to their needs and deliver improved experiences to everyone using the technology. We will also continue our ongoing work on Steam Audio, including the release of bug fixes and new features. I have to say, I love how open Valve is. The level of transparency that we get from them when it comes to SteamOS and Steam Deck. Steam Audio is a tool that the devs can use in order to make their game audio more realistic. Valve says that Steam Audio delivers a full-featured audio solution that integrates environment and listener simulation, significantly improving immersion in VR, physics-based sound propagation. It completes the aural immersion by consistently recreating how sound interacts within the virtual environment. It's my understanding that this isn't just limited to VR. It can also be used in the development of flat games, though I'm not a dev. I know a little tiny bit of Python and a little bit of Swift, and most of this stuff is well over my head, but this feels like another step that Valve is taking towards their Deckard headset. It's like Valve is setting up all of the dominoes so that when they launch their next VR headset, they have everything into place. They announce it, they push that first domino, and the picture will suddenly become way more clear to all of the rest of us on the outside. Give devs the tools to make their games more immersive, and then drop a piece of hardware that is the best place to play those games. It seems like a winning combination and strategy to me. Speaking of VR, the PSVR 2, mine anyway, has been collecting dust. That looks like it might change sometime this year. I have to admit, I was really enamored with it when I first picked it up. I finished the Horizon game. I loved every moment of that. The process of building your gear or climbing from place to place and using the various gadgets was really fun. On top of that, the combat felt fantastic. And that being said, it was my first real VR experience, and that may have colored my perception of that game. Now, most people will tell you that the PSVR 2 just doesn't have enough games, and I agree with those people. I feel like Sony sold this expecting third parties to fill up the library, and that just didn't happen fast enough. It clearly didn't help that they made so many changes from the PSVR 1, and that those games became incompatible with PSVR 2. Though I do think the changes that they made were good changes. They were necessary changes. But it looks like the library concerns are going to evaporate sometime in the near future. And that's because Sony is working on making the PSVR 2 compatible with PC. And it's supposed to happen this year. Over on the official PlayStation blog, they posted this. We are pleased to share that we are currently testing the ability for PSVR 2 players to access additional games on PC and offer even more game variety in addition to the PSVR titles available through PS5. We hope to make this support available in 2024, so stay tuned for updates. I think this is great news, though at the price point that you can get a PSVR 2, you're probably better off just getting a Quest 3. The one thing that PSVR 2 has over the Quest 3 is foveated rendering based on eye tracking, which makes it so that where you're looking is crystal clear and it renders things in the periphery with less detail. This keeps the processing power needed for high-res gameplay relatively low, as the game only has to go full bore rendering a small section of the screen in full detail. This is something that Apple's VR headset does as well does the Quest Pro, but for the Quest 3, they decided to shelve that feature. I hope they bring it back, as it was alluded to when Mark Zuckerberg did his ridiculous review of the Apple Vision Pro. Other than the foveated rendering, the Quest 3 is a step up over the PSVR 2 in pretty much every aspect. It's lighter, there's no wires, you can use it without a PC, and the controllers have a smaller footprint. You do have to worry about battery life on the Quest 3, but there's no cord, so if the battery gets low enough, you could just plug it in and pretty much be on equal footing with the PSVR 2 anyway. So once Sony drops those drivers and the PC can actually communicate with the PSVR 2, there's going to be a lot of people that are happier with the purchase that they made, though I still wish that I had chosen to pick up a Quest 3 instead of a PSVR 2. Anyway, this might convince me to upgrade the GPU in my PC, which is currently using an aging RTX 2060. Lies of P is such a strange game. It's a Clockwork Souls-like game set in the Pinocchio universe, which is one of the weirdest sentences I've ever said. It launched with de novo DRM. In a lot of games do this, but it launched with de novo DRM, and the publisher recently patched that DRM out on the down low. This comes to us over from Gaming on Linux. The devs didn't announce it, they didn't push it out in patch notes, and as Liam points out, devs are always kind of quiet when they get rid of de novo. You'd think that they would want to tell people, because removing de novo is like a popular move. I think they prefer not to mention it because there's a lot of people playing games with de novo that aren't even aware that they are using it. Sure, it's listed on the Steam page, but I bet most people aren't actually noticing it. I'm still not going to pick up this game, as it isn't really my kind of game. That being said, I've heard nothing but good things about Lies of P, and apparently it plays really well on the current gen of PC handhelds, though if you're playing it on one of those, you're going to want to be close to an outlet. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is sitting at a 93% on Metacritic right now. That's with 115 reviews in. For context, Final Fantasy VII Remake earned an 87 with 135 reviews, and this puts Rebirth as as of this recording, one of the highest rated Final Fantasy games ever, behind only Final Fantasy IX. I think that most of the complaints that people have with Rebirth are related to the graphics and the textures. I saw a video from Digital Foundry taking the game to task for strange choices when it came to shadow pop-in and mismatched textures, but I've played the demo all the way through and none of that bothered me. Note that I am not saying that Digital Foundry is wrong. They are the best in the business when it comes to pixel peeping, but when the game is in motion and you're just running around in the world or having awesome combat, the game looks beautiful. I think that the review of the game that has me even more excited for what is essentially Disc 2 is from Happy Console Gamer. He gives a great spoiler-free review. I will leave a link down below that like button. During the Nintendo Direct, they announced some great games coming to Nintendo Switch Online, but there was one game that's only available in Japan, and people are not happy about it. These games, the games that are coming to the Nintendo Switch Online include Killer Instinct and Battletoads for the Super Nintendo, one of my favorite racing games of all time, RC Pro-Am for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and one of my favorite N64 games that I don't think enough people ever played, Blast Corps, which is ridiculously about a runaway semi-truck with a nuclear warhead on board, and all we can do to keep it from going off is clear the path between the semi and its destination by destroying buildings by driving into them with invincible cars. Yeah, I actually just said that. But one game that was left out of the North American release on Nintendo Switch Online, it's exclusive to Japan, and that is Mother 3. People have been begging for Nintendo to put out a version of that game localized to the North American audiences for years. It was first released back on the GPA right before the DS came out, and it's pretty much universally acclaimed. People love this game, but for whatever reason, Nintendo refuses to put out a localized version of it, even though fans have done the work for them. If you want to play Mother 3, and Nintendo won't let you, you could always type something into a certain website, and then you could play it on your Mii Mini Plus or your Steam Deck or whatever your emulation. Wait, emulation. What the hell? Why are you bleeping me? The word I'm trying to say rhymes with shemulation. There, that worked. Speaking of emulation, why didn't I get bleeped that time? Whatever. Emulation Station Desktop Edition was recently released for Android. It's currently not available on the Google Play Store, but you can get it via the Amazon Store for $5. The devs say that they want to bring their front end to the Play Store, but that kind of thing does take time. My buddy Russ has a great video explaining how to get it set up on your Android device. I'll leave a link to that down below. With rumors that the Switch 2, or Super Switch, is getting delayed until 2025 being corroborated left and right, I'm starting to wonder what Nintendo fans are going to be playing this year. We have a few games from Nintendo coming down the pipe, but I expect that they're going to hold back most of their big franchises for next spring's rumored launch. But it looks like we may end up seeing Metroid Prime 4 this year. Where are we hearing this from? I'll tell you about that in a second. First of all, Metroid Prime 4 was announced at E3 2017, right before the Nintendo Switch launched. The game wasn't anywhere near ready to be announced, but Nintendo had to announce it anyway because they had just announced a 3DS Metroid game, and that would have made it look like they had no confidence in the Nintendo Switch if they didn't mention Metroid also coming to Switch. Fast forward a bit, and they ended up following that announcement up with an apology for Metroid fans because they were scrapping everything that they had and starting from scratch with Retro. It's been 7 years since Metroid Prime 4 was announced, and it looks like it might be coming this year. It comes to us from Jeff Grubb, who said that the same source that told him that Epic Mickey Remake was announced in the Nintendo Direct also told him that Metroid Prime 4 was coming in 2024. There's also rumors of Metroid Prime 2 Remastered coming this year. It seems to me like the best way to do it is to have Prime 2 come out as soon as possible, Prime 3 Remastered come out in the fall, and Prime 4 release as a big holiday title. Microsoft has finally admitted that Stadia was right all along. I've tried most of the cloud gaming platforms, Google Stadia, GeForce Now, Luna, Shadow, and all of them, the one that I found to be the worst was xCloud Gaming. I've often had to wait in line to play, the latency is higher, the resolution is lower, and you can only play games that are part of Game Pass. If you bought an Xbox game, too bad, you can't use it on a cloud game unless it's on Game Pass. That's one thing that I really liked about Stadia, is you could subscribe to their plan and get games each month, or you could not subscribe and just buy games and play them. Rest in peace, Stadia. Well, it looks like Microsoft is going to make that change and let you play your entire Xbox library in the cloud with your subscription. This matches up with their strategy that every screen is an Xbox, and I think that that's great. You'll be able to buy your Xbox games, stream them to your Steam Deck, ROG Ally, your PC, pretty much wherever. I just hope that they find a way to make the latency lower and the resolution higher for these games. Just like I hope that you'll find your way to watching this video right here. From the NerdNest, I'm Bill. Stay rad, everybody.